Hi there, I'm Tracy Smith, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. We begin this week with actor and entrepreneur Gwyneth Paltrow, who's been in the spotlight and under scrutiny for most of her adult life.
Let me die.
She won an Academy Award for Best Actress for 1998's Shakespeare in Love. And you won an Oscar at 26.
I know, it's crazy when I think about that now. At the time, I thought I was like a full adult, you know?
But Gwyneth Paltrow is already well into a second life.
So you beat everybody to the office, basically.
I usually beat people to the office.
She's founder and CEO of the lifestyle brand Goop. It's a website.
I founded Goop 13 years ago to unearth cutting-edge ideas that could really help us optimize our lives.
TV shows.
We thought it was about time that we take this approach to sex and intimacy.
And lots of products aimed at making you feel and look good. There's more Gwyneth Paltrow coming up a little later in the show. Last time you starred in a movie was when you were pregnant with Apple.
Yes. Yes, that's when I was in every scene. It was a movie called Proof. It was an adaptation of a play I had done in London. And I think by that point, too, I was pretty burned out. I had been doing multiple movies a year, all different locations, all different hours, and I really thought, I really want to stop for a while and just take time out, and luckily I was able to do that.
Then Martha Teichner visits a New York City art installation that's quite literally for the birds.
In the middle of crowded Brooklyn, the Botanic Garden is a 52-acre oasis. Just listen. You can hear the birds singing. Until a plane or siren drowns them out.
And you press.
Next to each birdhouse, there's a sign with a QR code. Scan it, and your phone will play a piece of music. For the Birds is about more than birdhouses.
Wow, you can hear the birds in it.
Yeah. And I love the fact that the designers were able to pick their own pieces of music.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. Not too long ago, we caught up with Gwyneth Paltrow. She talked with us about everything from the effects of fame and fortune at an early age to managing the ups and downs of her online enterprise. Here she is in conversation. When you were, let's say, 20, 30 years old, how did you see what you'd be doing at 50?
I don't think I thought about it. I thought, 50 is like, you're dead at that point.
Okay, she's clearly far from dead. But Gwyneth Paltrow is already well into a second life.
So you beat everybody to the office, basically.
I usually beat people to the office.
She's founder and CEO of the lifestyle brand Goop. It's a website.
I founded Goop 13 years ago to unearth cutting-edge ideas that could really help us optimize our lives.
TV shows.
We thought it was about time that we take this approach to sex and intimacy.
And lots of products aimed at making you feel and look good. The Goop flagship store is in Santa Monica, California, where Paltrow was raised by mom, actress Blythe Danner, and dad, producer-director Bruce Paltrow. Growing up watching her mom, Paltrow knew she wanted to act, and success came early.
Oh, happy dagger, this is thy sheath. They rest. Let me die.
She won an Academy Award for Best Actress for 1998's Shakespeare in Love. And you won an Oscar at 26.
I know, it's crazy when I think about that now. At the time, I thought I was like a full adult,
What do you think that did to your mind?
It up.
In what way?
Well, I think to reach that kind of like pinnacle at that age and have that much scrutiny and attention, and then it's like no matter what you do after that, you can't really win, right? It's like you have a few years of, it's like nothing's gonna live up to that, and It's just a lot to hold.
She continued to star in movies for the next decade.
This is Marge Sherwood. Sorry, what is it?
Ripley.
How do you do?
How do you do, Marge?
How long do you intend to stay here?
I don't know.
Are you ever coming home?
Maybe not.
What are you doing here?
Just avoiding government agents.
Are you by yourself?
Where'd you get that dress?
Oh, it was a birthday present from you, actually.
But her father's untimely death in 2002 put her on a new path.
When did you start caring about wellness?
I'll tell you exactly. When my father got cancer. And I was helping him one day, feeding him with a syringe and the feeding tube. And it struck me like, what is in this can that I'm injecting directly into his stomach? And it was the first time I made a connection between food, wellness. I'll never forget that moment. When I started Goop in 2008, I was like, my calling is something else besides, making out with Matt Damon on screen or whatever.
She started researching and sharing what she learned, and it turned into the website Goop. Her initials plus 2 O's, because she'd heard successful internet companies have double O's in their name.
What all do you do in here?
Our scientists come in here, there's lots of mixing and testing and textures and fragrances.
Today, the company's reported to be a $250 million business. It's also a controversial one. Some doctors and scientists have slammed Goop and Paltrow for recommending methods and products that aren't scientifically proven.
What do you say to people who say that you're promoting pseudoscience?
I genuinely don't understand where that comes from, because we don't do that. We've never done that. I mean, especially when we started. There were so many modalities and ways of achieving wellness that had no scientific backing, but that have worked in India for thousands of years or worked in China. So I think it was like a way to take shots at us. But there's nothing that we talk about that's actually that wacky.
Oh, come on, some of it's maybe a little wacky.
Okay, like what?
Maybe the egg.
Goop used to say that a $66 jade egg inserted vaginally could regulate hormones and tighten the pelvic floor. They were investigated by a California medical task force for false claims in 2018 and settled the case for $145,000. They admitted no wrongdoing, but offered full refunds and tweaked the product description. And they're still selling the egg online.
There's a whole industry now around strengthening your pelvic floor. We were just early.
Paltrow says she and Goop are often misunderstood because they're ahead of their time.
We would talk about something and the internet would freak out, and then, 6 months later or 2 years later, it would be widely adopted.
Give me an example.
Well, the gluten-free thing is, perfect example of that. People thought that was totally nuts. There's a bunch of examples of it.
Where at the time people were like, oh, that Gwyneth.
Yeah, this crazy girl talking about, gluten-free or getting a nice divorce.
Yes, the divorce. When Paltrow and musician Chris Martin announced their conscious uncoupling in 2014, eyes rolled. But they've raised their 2 kids together while remaining good friends.
I mean, as much as people said, oh, conscious uncoupling, you guys really did figure it out.
I think we did. And he's completely my family, and I love him, and he would do anything for me. I would do anything for him. We would do anything for our kids. We really did commit to wanting our children to be as unscathed by the divorce as possible.
Paltrow now has a blended family with husband, TV producer Brad Falchuk, and his 2 kids. Her oldest, Apple, just left for college.
How's that?
Oh, wow. That is, I know it sounds nuts, but it feels almost as profound as giving birth.
And as she approaches another milestone, Gwyneth Paltrow seems to be handling it well.
As a woman, you turn 50 and maybe we all give ourselves permission to be exactly who we are, and we stop trying to be what other people are expecting us to be, and we kind of exhale into this other thing.
Have you given yourself permission to be who you are?
Yes, but it's taken me time.
More exclusive excerpts from my chat with Gwyneth Paltrow coming up a little later in the show. But up next, behold the once humble birdhouse. We head to Brooklyn now, where Martha Teichner takes us on a multimedia, multi-sensory experience based on the sounds of birds.
This thing weighs 2 tons. Artists confound me sometimes. It's a birdhouse exhibit. Is it a birdhouse? Well, maybe that's the point of art.
You could be confused making your way around the Brooklyn Botanic Garden trying to answer that question, especially if you happen to be a bird.
The artist who did this before he became an artist full-time, he ran a city food cart. That birdhouse is made of pieces of his cart.
There are 33 of these statement birdhouses. They're part of an exhibit called For the Birds, but it's probably more accurate to say it's for humans on behalf of the birds.
It's got feet.
It does.
This, by Brooklyn artist Julie Pepito, is called United Birds of America.
There's 5 American birds that this bird condo houses. This is my version of an American goldfinch. There's also an American robin, which is the big bird up here.
The American kestrel, barn owl, and redstart are here too.
The idea is that if we can get the birds together, then maybe we can get together to help save them.
A Cornell Lab of Ornithology study found that between 1970 and 2017, North America lost 2.9 billion birds. By now, it's estimated that number is well over 3 billion. Gone in just over 50 years. Birds we know and maybe take for granted. Dramatically depleted. Among the reasons, climate change, loss of habitat, cats. In the middle of crowded Brooklyn, the Botanic Garden is a 52-acre oasis. Just listen. You can hear the birds singing. Until a plane or siren drowns them out.
And you press.
Next to each birdhouse, there's a sign with a QR code. Scan it, and your phone will play a piece of music. For the Birds is about more than birdhouses.
Wow, you can hear the birds in it.
Yeah. And I love the fact that the designers were able to pick their own pieces of music.
Randall Poster made For the Birds happen. Poster is a music supervisor, someone who coordinates all the music for movies and TV shows.
With each of the LPs, we invited different artists to create unique art.
Poster lined up big-name musicians, actors, artists, and writers to create original bird-themed material for a limited edition 20 LP boxed set. The collection is also being released for streaming. Proceeds go to the Audubon Society for Bird Conservation. Among the 250 contributors, cellist Yo-Yo Ma, who had himself recorded in the woods, serenading the birds. Elvis Costello, rocking out. From composer and music producer Alex Summers, something moodier.
Randall got field recordings of various species of birds. I just wanted the oldest recording they had. So I made a piece of music that ended up being titled after the day the recording came from.
May 18th, 1929, Lost, he called it. On a balmy night this summer, 1,500 people spread themselves out on the lawn at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden to immerse themselves in what Summers calls a sound bath. There they were, those birds recorded more than 90 years ago, flying through a new age. Part of the point of For the Birds is to get people to tune out the noise, so for once they can actually hear this pure, beautiful plea for help.
Do you love acting?
Wow.
We'll have more from Gwyneth Paltrow coming up next. Stay with us.
Part of me, a real part of me that loves when you're doing a scene.
Welcome back. As promised, here's more with Gwyneth Paltrow. Last time you starred in a movie was when you were pregnant with Apple.
Yes. Yes, that's when I was in every scene. It was a movie called Proof. It was an adaptation of a play I had done in London. And I think by that point, too, I was pretty burned out. I had been doing multiple movies a year, all different locations, all different hours, and I really thought, I really want to stop for a while and just take time out. And luckily, I was able to do that. And I took time off. I mean, I didn't make a movie again, I don't think, until Moses was a year old. That's when I went back to do Iron Man, I'm pretty sure. So there was time there where I really took a pause.
And obviously it's the pull of motherhood, but did acting just not do it for you anymore?
If I'm really honest, I think the bloom was a little bit off the rose for me at that point. I think when you are an actor, you don't have that kind of agency that other careers necessarily in the arts have. Like, if you're very beholden to being cast in something. A lot of the process is, rejection. It's just a little bit like it can be bruising, and I had worked with people that were difficult to work with. Like it just had sort of all caught up with me in a way, and I wanted to take a break.
Do you love acting?
Wow. I think there is a deep part of me, a real part of me that loves when you're doing a scene and it's just everything works and it just feels magic. It's like this incredible alignment of something from the divine, something from within you, with great words. It all just kind of happens, and that I think I still love. I mean, I haven't done it in so long, but I think if I were to do it again and I were to find something like that, I think I would love it. But there's a lot around it that's harder to love.
But is there still a possibility that you could find that again?
I think so. I mean, if I know myself at all by now, it's that I always surprise myself. And I would never say never. And I think it's absolutely a possibility that at some point I would go back to it or see if I wanted to go back to it, but I'm not sure.
Is there a way to sum up how much Goop has grown?
I think the sum of all the parts is kind of what's at the heart of Goop. The content, for example, it's so near and dear to our hearts, and it's, we know that we've impacted people's lives really positively. So you have the content piece, we've been really at the forefront of a lot of culture and different movements. I'm really proud of that. And then you have the product that comes from that, right? Like us creating product because we identify white spaces in the market where we're like, gosh, it'd be great to have a really efficacious skincare line that was clean and non-toxic, or, G-Label, creating chic, wearable, very versatile, trend-proof clothing, things like that. So it goes into a lot of different territories, and I think what we're doing is delivering on a brand promise of being an indispensable resource for people with our content, our curation, and then the products that follow.
In the intro to the Goop Lab series,
yes,
you talked about your calling and how you realized that your calling might be different than what you set out in your 20s thinking it was.
Right.
So talk about that. What is your calling?
You know, I'm not sure. I think this is something that I've been thinking about as well, and I'm taking stock and inventory and what I've done and where I want to go. And I've always just so instinctually, I've been led by my instincts, and I've never really stopped to think, like, what am I doing this for? And I think I'm kind of at that point right now where I'm like, what am I doing this for? Like, what is my calling? I think on some level, at the deepest level, I think I hold a belief that we all can have the life that we want to have, and there is this ineffable joy that's available to us, and how do we access it? Like, how do we unlock the power within ourselves to be who we want to be, whatever that definition is for you? And so I hope that on some level I am helping people access that.
Have you found joy?
I have. I really have. And it's not always a joyful day, but I think I have a contentment, and like my baseline feels whole and feels happy. And then of course, like, I have terrible days and whatever, but I have definitely found a baseline that feels pretty good.
I'm Tracy Smith. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next time on Here Comes the Sun.